So in this video, we're going to be constructing a line graph. So a line graph is similar to a standard coordinate graph, and line graphs are usually used to show trends over periods of time. So we're going to begin by drawing a vertical axis to represent the number of immigrants in thousands. Then we're going to label the horizontal axis with decades and plot the points shown in the table. So here in our example, we're given this table that shows the number of immigrants in thousands legally entering the United States for each decade from 1901 through 2010. This is where we're going to be constructing our line graph for the data, and then we're going to come to a conclusion here. So let's just go ahead and we'll scoot up a little bit so we have some room. So here we have our decades, our number of immigrants, and the title, U.S. immigrants. So we're going to begin by putting in our decades on the x-axis. And so we'll list each of these decades as its own line, or its own value. And because we're not starting at the beginning of time, we do need to show that there's a break in the graph to show that we're jumping to 1901. So once we have our x-axis labeled, we can look at our y-axis. So here we see that our lowest number is 528, where our highest number is 10,501. So we can probably do this by counting by 1,000. So we're going to count by 1,000 going up our y-axis. Okay, so there we go. So we've got our y-axis counting by thousands up to 10,000. Probably actually need 11,000 on there too. And now we're simply going to graph these numbers at those decade spots. So for example, we have got 8,795 from 1901 to 1910. So we'll just put a dot there, a little tiny green dot. Then we're going to go from 1911 to 1920. We had 5,736, so just under 6,000. Then let's see, let's check them off as we go. We've done this one, we've done this one. So our next one is 4,107 for the 1921 to 1930 decade. So just above 4,000. We'll go ahead and cross that one off. Then 1931 to 1950, only 528. So that's going to be way down here. Oh, it looks like I've been graphing not on the right. So we have to remember where our numbers are. So this one should actually go here. So that's our third decade spot. And this one should really go here in our second decade spot. So you've got to be careful to make sure that if you skip lines, you remember that you skipped lines. So let's go back to that fourth decade spot. So from 1931 to 1940, that's 528. So halfway between 0 and 1,000. Oh, and we'll cross that one off. And then we're going to 1941 to 1950 is 1,035, so just barely above that 1,000 mark. And we'll go ahead and mark that one off. Then from 1951 to 1960, there was 2,515, so in between 2 and 3,000. And we'll mark that off. Then we had from 1961 to 1970, 3,322. So we're going to go ahead and go just above 3,000 there. And we'll cross that one off. Then for the 1971 to 1980 decade, we had 4,399. So that's almost 4.5. So just under 4.5. So 4,000, just under 4,500. And we'll cross that one off. Then from 1981 to 1990, there was 7,256. So we'll put that just above 7,000. Okay, there we go. And we'll go ahead and mark that one off. Then from 1991 to 2000, there was 9,081. So just over 9,000. And then we'll go ahead and cross that one off. And then from 2001 to 2010, we had 10,500. So in between 10 and 11,000. Once we have all of our points graphed, then we're going to connect the dots with a line. Oops. There we go. So think about this graph. What can you conclude from this graph? Well, from this line graph, you can see that the number of immigrants hit a low point during the Depression of the 1930s. And since then, the number has steadily increased. And so that is how you make a line graph from a set of data points.